Hey, we're out of executive session. No action was taken. No action is needed at this point. Number 3 is requests and items to be discussed by the personnel office. A is a request for a new contract with Standard Medical Testing Services, a division of Mountain Medical Services, BLLC, to provide police and patrol officer candidates with physical exam services.
I'll bring it forward.
Moved by Supervisor Connolly, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Questions or discussion? Supervisor.
Is this something that we put out through RFP, or is this just a renewal?
This is the 2023 contract. I believe under purchasing policies, medical does not have an RFP. And we've used this service provider for several years, and it works really well, very timely for getting results to us when we're trying to make appointments for academies, et cetera.
And they're locally based, correct?
Yes, Bay Road.
Other questions? Yeah, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. 3B is a review of the 2023 budget request for the looks like it's decrease, which is any questions or anything you want to
Expenses, the only change is I requested a couple $1,000s for recruiting use for, we have, some of our small department have no funding for if they have vacancies and want to do some outreach, et cetera. So we asked for a few $1,000s to have some flexibility to help them out when we need to, or we've been putting some small ads in various locations and doing some other action to move things forward. We try to do as much as we can without expending funds, but some small amount, hopefully big results.
any questions from the committee? Thank you. Number 4 is requests and items to be discussed by the county attorney. A is a request for a transfer of funds in the amount of $6,046.35. Budget code A 119-469 contingent account. Various budget codes to cover a budget deficit.
Questions. So there's 3 items that really compose those numbers that are over the budget for 2022. There's $1.23 of overtime expense that at some point got accrued. Hospitalization number is about 20% higher than the budget. I don't really have a good insight as to why those numbers come to my department. That's the purpose for the adjustment, to account for those differences in those 3 categories.
Yeah, I'll bring it forward, of course.
Seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any other discussion on the request?
I'm reading it correctly. It's $1.23 overtime and $6,045 for hospitalization. Is that correct?
All question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B is a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to extend the special assistant to the county attorney position until December 31st, 2022, pending budget review.
So that position was approved as a one-year position. And we're looking to cover it through the end of the year as those positions are being adjusted and renamed as part of the budget process. So we're looking at- and to be specific, that is from November 14, 2022 through the end of the year. I don't believe it requires a budget adjustment. It's already accounted for in the current 2022 budget for my department.
Make it another question. The county attorney said there's no change to the budget. I assume that means there's no change to the salary of this position at this time to get them through the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
salary that's in effect at the end of the one-year term would continue through December 31st of this year.
I assume this is in front of us. You're satisfied with the performance of this individual, or wouldn't be in front of us. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And 4C is a review of the 2023.
Copy of the budget that's been reviewed in the budget committee. I'm more than happy to do my best to answer them. The one item of increase that I do want to note is that there's a $50,000 request for an additional request over last year for outside counsel fees. That is anticipated to be required for the Child Victim Act cases. Not all of them, but potentially one of those cases. We need to bring in for at least one of those three CVA cases.
Any questions from the committee? Yes.
On that, Larry, where is that showing up? That's
It's a line 440 legal and fees. Request is 123,000. For 2023, the amended budget was 75,000 for 22. Difference plus or minus about $50,000 to be set aside for outside counsel fees on that, specifically for one of the three CVA cases.
Okay, and there are, let's see, three personnel requests. And that's really- Supervisor Bramer.
Just on the, I haven't had a chance to look at these personnel requests, but on the attorney thing, if that is not something that's set in stone, I would say we should take it out of the budget. Have Larry come back to us later.
Child victim.
Yeah, the 50,000 for the outside counsel cost.
Sketched, outlined, and the hammer and the chisel are out. Much detail about this particular case, or the specifics of the case. We've been blessed with the ability to not need to move forward immediately, and I fully expect that's going to stop in coming weeks or months. Whatever the preference of the committee is, I'm completely fine with it. I don't feel it would be appropriate for me to know that expense is going to be required in 2023 and not make it part of the budget for 2023. But if you would like me to bring it back at a later date.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between budgeted and expended. So we don't budget it, and we delete it from the budget. And we ask for it to come back at a later date. Then what we're saying is that at that time, we're going to come out of some other account and transfer into the budget to be able to do this. So, but we're hearing from the county attorney that some expenditure is going to be required here. So I'm a little reluctant to take it out of the budget because he's telling us it is going to be part of the expenditure plan going forward. So I guess what I would say is, what if I heard you correctly, that if the committee wants to delve into the details of these services going forward, that's fine. You don't have any problem with that, and of course you wouldn't, but I guess I would say let's be careful about taking something out of the budget that we're only going to transfer back into later. If the budget officer says fine, then I guess I'm fine with that, and we'll come back later and we'll have to come out of contingency. We'll probably end up having to come out of contingency for it. But yes,
This will be a resolution that comes through the committee. That approval then would be to expend that money that's in the budget.
that's what I'm saying. The authorization on the expenditure is different than I understand. I think I understand. I understand what Supervisor Bramer's interest is in here. But the matter has to come back before us in terms of the expenditure and then the possible contracts, et cetera. Anyway, we unbudgeted it, then we're only going to be transferring those dollars in later. And why would we do that if we know it's budgeted? If we know it's going to be part of the expenditure plan?
I think that Larry answered my question when he said it was basically chiseled in stone. So I don't see a reason to take it out, as I had originally suggested. I do have another question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just on the third position, the legal office coordinator, I assume that Trish has already approved all of this, and did it go through civil service? Is it a definite that it can happen and that this person can fill this spot? Is that all been? I mean, if we need to go into executive session maybe, or I can follow up with.
It's initialed on the, each personnel request went through personnel and human resources.
My question is, did this go through state civil service as an approved new position?
I would defer to the personnel officer.
Trish?
This position is going to be a competitive position, so we review it the same when we create any other new position. Because it's a new title, so we reviewed with Larry what the duties and responsibilities, scopes, et cetera. came up with a position description. He put together a personnel request that went to the budget committee, as do all the new positions in. So this position followed the same process. If you approve it, it would be appropriate to our class plan, and we would put it on the in the pipeline to order an exam to be held for this position. So the appointment would be provisional. This is not an exempt position. Larry's other secretary position is an exempt position.
I'll follow up later. This isn't getting approved today, right? Right. I'll follow up. Thank you.
Just, by the committee. Yes, Supervisor Law.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. First is Assistant County Attorney. That's a 35% increase.
Yep.
And I'm curious for the justification for such a significant bump.
I feel that that might be a discussion for the executive session. Talk about a particular individual as part of discussing that.
Are we approving this today?
Again, these are requests. So myself being the budget officer, that doesn't what the numbers are.
And then there's no need to go into executive session right now. We'll talk about it during budget. Thank you.
What I can say in open session is the position of first assistant county attorney serves as the acting county attorney in the absence of the county attorney. It's clear public record that prior to my hiring, the position of first assistant county attorney ran the county attorney's office for approximately half a year. Despite all of that, that position was listed as a grade 1 entry level or a grade 2 level, not a supervisory level position. I don't know the historical reasons why the first assistant county attorney was not at a grade consistent for a supervisory position. But this change moves that position into the lower level advisory grade from the staff attorney grade. Let me be blunt. There were some brand new graduates of law schools going into another department as attorneys, coming in at a higher grade than the first assistant county attorney who was, while that individual was working as the acting county attorney. So that's the reason why you see such a significant change. And again, I don't know the historical reasons why that occurred. I don't care. I just know for my department that that's a key and crucial position, and it should be at the appropriate grade for what the job requires, which is a supervisory level grade on the scale.
Yes, I will open this up to privilege of the floor. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few questions. This is like $56,000 between 4C, all the 4 Cs, correct? Like kind of, roughly 56 grand increase.
Okay, yeah.
I want to, being recorded, I don't want to be misled, but from what I understand, we're asking for like 28,000, 7,000, and like 10,000, correct?
For each of those 3 positions, yeah, that's
All right,
approximately.
so if you add them all up together, all right, that's $56,000 year after year after year. Now, I have heard rumors of this budget that is coming soon that not looking too good, and we're being a little flexible. Now, these are the increases after they already got their raises or the upgrade that we gave to the unions and the non-unions, the $5,500 a year. Those are the increases we already got.
I don't believe that's correct. I believe the increases that are showing are increases from the budgeted 2022 number up to the new grade and year request for each individual. So I don't.
No, I understand the grade part, but
So that
my
number is
question was,
not, I don't want the committee to be misunderstanding that the number the supervisor from Queensberry is referencing is in addition to recent increases, because I don't believe that's accurate. I don't believe the recent increases in salary.
they didn't get that extra 275.
No, they did get it, but the numbers you're talking about on the increase didn't include that bump. First, these were prepared and submitted, I believe, prior to that being approved. But second, they were based off of what the budgeted 22 numbers were as compared to what the request would be for their appropriate years and grade assignment. So I believe it would not be correct to say that that gross number that you said is after applying the recent bump that occurred in August for out of unit rates.
All right, I'm a little confused with what you're saying there. What I'm seeing is I'm seeing a price for without adjustments and then with adjustments, correct? And then an increase at the bottom. That would be a plus, correct?
Absolutely, that's the.
All right, so you add up all those bottom line pluses and it's $56,000. On top of that, all right, each one of them already got $5,500. All right, so 5,500 times three. I'm just trying to do this roughly and get a grasp on it. And it's not that I'm knocking, but my point is that I remember saying this back when we were negotiating with the unions. This is going to open up a can of worms, which we knew was coming. All right, so now we just give everybody 5,500, and now we're trying to bring everybody up to grade. This is going to open up another can of worms. All right. And our budget's not sounding too good. No offense to anyone. It's just not a good year. And things, so I'm a little concerned of jumping ahead right now until I see what our budget committee is going to kick out or what we're looking like next year. Because the closer we get, the more things I hear that are a little scary. And watching the market and the way the outside world is handling, I know we have to prepare ourselves a little. So I'm just a little concerned. That's just, 1 out of 20, just stating it's nothing against your department. I'd love to pay everybody. Heck, I'd like more money out there in the field, but I can only get so much blood out of a stone. So.
If I could just clarify, to be clear, the 2 attorney positions where there are requests for a modification, their salaries and grades were below starting new grad attorneys in one other department in the county. So I understand the concern, I feel the concern, but the greater concern I have is that we don't have attorneys in the county attorney's office to do the work that not just this board needs, but that the county needs. And there's a balancing between the value that's provided by those services and the savings that can occur through those services as compared to the numbers that are before this committee.
But we're already, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The counter is, so, but those other 2 positions that aren't filled yet that I see here.
So they're all 3 of those positions have current employees that will be in those positions. So the first assistant county attorney, we currently have a first assistant county attorney. That adjustment is for that position. The second assistant county attorney request is for that position, which is currently filled. And
So the
new
third is
position-
full.
And the new position that we're creating of legal office coordinator is the same position that's currently held by the special assistant to the county attorney, whose term we just extended through the end of this year. But we're not hiring any new employees. We're adjusting, we're requesting an adjustment on 2 of the attorney positions and a new title. That would be a competitive title for 1 of the 2 staff positions in my office.
But along with that new title, it goes from X amount to almost another $10,000,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
all right?
Based on the job description and what that position has moved to and will be in 2023 if approved.
And you're telling me that the third assistant county attorney is full? It got filled. On your
Yes,
2023 schedule, it
yes.
doesn't have a name yet.
No, because he just started, he's in his, I believe, 3rd week of employment right now. So again, these were prepared before that position was filled.
Okay, and you look at those price, some of those salaries, all right? And you're asking for more than some of those salaries. It's just $56,000 on top of the $5,500 everybody got. On top of that, it's a lot of money. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, just for everyone's clarification, if you look at the salary schedule that lists out everybody, any out of unit or appointed person, that does not include the $5,720. So the actual salary total is $536,504. It's been a very confusing year because of what we've done, increasing salaries, and some of these schedules have it, some of them don't. Any CSEA employees, the number is in there. Out of unit is not, so.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. You see it in, for example, on 4C, you see it in the personnel budget sheet, it says 23, a salary without the adjustment. See, this footnote, it says without the adjustment that took place in August. Do you see that? Without the adjustment. So that the differential, 7,000 is without the adjustment. Then it says with the adjustment, salary with adjustment. Your point is you have to do some subtraction.
You have to back out the adjustment.
You have to back out the adjustment. So that, I could see where that might be a little bit confusing. I think it reads, the same thing with the, in the previous sheet, it's the same thing, without the adjustment. That doesn't mean there isn't an increase, it's just not as much as.
Okay, any other questions on the attorney's budget? Yes. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas, for allowing me the chance to ask this first question. And I don't know if this should be addressed at an executive session of the full board or at a future time, but I see in the county attorney's budget, we have an individual who is not actively working on campus and we're engaged in a lawsuit. Would the raise also apply to that position? And could we get an update on what's going on with that case at a time in the very near future? Since we haven't heard anything. Since I'm asking about it, I figured I'd ask about both.
One part I can answer in the open session is one, well, as I've consistently said, when I started, I was asked to remain on one side of a Chinese wall, meaning not getting involved in the details in order to be in a position to fairly and judiciously make a determination on that position when findings and recommendations came through from the hearing officer. So with that caveat, which still remains in place, next week, there's oral argument at the Second Circuit on the underlying federal lawsuit appeal, where it's the employee appealing the decision of the trial court to dismiss her federal civil rights lawsuit. So that portion is public record, and there'll be oral argument next week on it, which means hopefully within a few months, a final determination by the appellate court as to whether or not the dismissal was appropriate and the lawsuit is over, or in the alternative, if it's going to be remanded for further proceedings at the trial court. And that certainly does not fully answer all of the potential questions the supervisor from Queensbury may have, but we would need to schedule outside counsel to be able to address the board in an executive session of the
Mr. Chairman, may I just say thank you for that update. I do think that a full update is needed because here that she's still on the payroll and we haven't actually reported the other items that we talked about as a board. But my question still remains, was she given the increase that the out of units were given, the $5,000? Or $5,500?
I don't have the answer to that question.
I'm sorry.
I don't have the answer to that question.
Would the treasurer have it? I mean, it already took place. So I'm just wondering if she was included in that.
I'm not sure.
We had that to the board meeting. Look to it.
Thank you.
Do you know?
Oh, the treasurer.
Yes,
Can we ask the treasurer, Mr. Chairman?
sure. You can ask him. I don't.
Unless she's on the 45-day pause, which a lot of the employees are, it was across the board, so yes. And I have to go back and look to see whether she's on that, because I don't know. Because there are several of the employees that were left that don't get it outside the unit because the way the resolution was structured, that they have to wait 45 days to get their pay.
So I think the consensus is that yes.
At worst, she's got to wait 45
It
days.
works, she waits 45.
Otherwise, she may have it already.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Information that we should actually have.
Or 45 days from now. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for the county attorney? Right, we'll move on to the next item. Number 5, which is a request and items to be discussed by the clerk of the board. And
all of my budgets are in your packet. There were no increases in any of the codes that I have discretion over. Any increases were for things that were mandated to me, such as our internet. That did go up, but that's based on what I billed us. That will be approved or determined through the budget process. Those were all carried over flat. I'd be happy to answer, or if you have after this meeting, you can always.
questions for the clerk? We'll move on to number 6, which is a referral from the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. It's for the Public Defender's Office. It's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule, to increase the salary of the coordinating attorney, public defender from 81,618 to 87,338. Active and retroactive. to September 12th.
What's the rationale behind this?
Got a motion to put it on the floor?
Let's put her on the floor.
Okay, have a second. Seconded by Supervisor Runyon. Rationale, let's see. It looks like from from the justification, I see that not included. You wanted to do this with resolution 417 and it got left out. Earl Herring makes the difference.
Difference being 57.
Item 6.
Item 6. You got item 6? So, thank you. So it was left out, it was a mistake left out in the resolution of 417 or whatever. It was just an error, clerical error.
Okay. From what I was just told, it wasn't left out. I made a mistake. It was vacant. It didn't receive the 5720. Now it's not vacant. So he's asking for it to receive. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, these are all budget neutral. They're all funded, are they not? So the revenue we get basically offsets the salary and benefits for this position.
Yeah, and unless, correct me if I'm wrong, but unless we do this, we're effectively lowering the grade of the position by the dollar amount. So by putting the dollar amount, gaining the grade of the position comparatively to the other position. Everyone went up $5,600. They went up whatever grade that represented. That vacant position, that title position, is to do this. Well, that position, the grade is got lower. Unless we feel that the grade needs to be lowered, then I think it's more of a consequence. Let's have budgetary implications. I can't deny that.
Right, but it's bringing the position up to match the rest. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Number 7 is a referral from the Adirondack or American Recovery Advisory Committee, ARPA. And it's a request to amend resolution 419 of 2022 to delete the vacant position as well as the vacancy created by the resignation of Mike Swan. Yes, moved by Supervisor Bramer. By Supervisor Beatty. Any questions? Yes. Supervisor Powell.
I guess my question would be, why are we lowering the number on the committee? I guess it'd be a question for the chairman. This is something that you recommend doing?
Point of order, please.
Yeah.
If the chair of this committee
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know what the recommendation is from the chairman. And this is something that is being recommended to us by the chairman, something that, because I see we're losing our chief fiscal officer off of the committee. He was appointed there for a reason. We have a budget officer there for a reason. Soon.
This is a referral from the ARPA committee.
ARPA committee, right, I see. I guess my, in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of county government generally, the committees fit within the county. Why are we doing this? I mean, the argument might be, well, this is a moving train and you're asking new people to come in and jump on a moving train, but that would be the case on any committee. That would be just for this committee. And I think I think this issue, didn't we deal with this issue once before and we elected to fill the positions? I think this came before us. As I remember, there was a request to lower the number prior. So are we revisiting this issue? Well, I'm trying to remember. I seem to remember that this came in front of me before, and we elected to know that we were going to fill the positions, but now it's coming to us again. I'm just wondering why that is.
I think that was the acting administrator.
Right, to fill that position. We elected that we chose to want to fill that position. But now we have it coming back that there are other positions either vacant or soon to be vacant that we don't choose to fill. I'm just wondering why that would be.
Supervisor Brown.
Thank you. The request did come through the ARPA committee. One of the reasons is that we're having some trouble reaching quorum with 13 members. And we do have a vacancy that has existed since Mr. Biddle left. And we had asked his successor to join and that person was not interested. So we've had a vacancy there. And then when the treasurer resigned, which I completely understand, he's been a great asset to the committee, but now he is in a role where he's trying to oversee the distribution of the funds. So it didn't make sense to him. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but to be both in the process of distributing the funds and then later trying to oversee an audit and ensure consistency and compliance with the federal rules about the dollars. And it is kind of a moving train. The ARPA committee has been on this train for over a year now, and we're getting very close. I would like to think as co-chair that we're getting very close to wrapping up our duties. And so it really doesn't make sense now that we have already scored all the applications and we have our final list of applicants in front of us to add someone now to the committee who hasn't been part of that process. They didn't score the applications, and it would really take a lot for someone to get up to speed at this point. Sure, it could be done. If you oppose this, I'm sure we maybe can find someone, but that's been another problem, is that I've asked others in the community who have been watching the ARPA meetings and coming, public members of a not-for-profit. It's a lot of work and they're not interested. I'm maybe defer to the acting county administrator, as we've had a discussion about this 2 meetings ago, really just as a matter of logistics to delete the vacant positions. That's all it is, Ron.
Yes, to address Supervisor from Bolton's concerns there. And as the supervisor from Glens Falls, the co-chair of the ARPA committee had mentioned, reaching the quorum is difficult with 13 members. And this has been a long process where members have been very involved in the scoring. And we're right down to the brass tacks right now of deciding who gets what. And for a new member to come on, it's a lot of catch up. It's members are just hanging on as it is as we go through this process and figuring it out. So with less people on the board, easier to hit a quorum, make the decisions to get the funding out there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Administrator and Ms. Bramer. The committee's been meeting almost a year. And we've already allocated 75% of the money. We've gone through 83 applications, most of us, not all the members, but most of the members spent hours and hours and hours going through the applications. In fact, I can tell you Ray Agnew, who's on the committee from the Glens Falls Hospitals, told me the other day, he's been on tons of committees in his whole life. He's never put in as much time and effort on any volunteer committee as he has with this one. So to try to get somebody now at the 11th hour to try to catch up on a year of discussions, a year of input, of trying, not having any input on the 83 applications because they didn't have time to go through the hours and hours of reading and scoring, would be disingenuous to anybody to add them. It would actually be doing them a disservice, in my opinion, and would be rather an undaunting task for anybody at this moment to add them. I mean, I don't know of anybody who could do that. Any human being that I know of, anyway. So thank you, Mr. Administrator and Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I recognize the issue with catching up and with, the quorum issues. We've lost some significant talent on this committee. Michael Biddle, Ryan Moore, Mike Swan. My concern is if we don't have some additional voices, we may make mistakes. And one of the mistakes that may happen is the board of supervisors decides that, well, the ARPA committee said we should spend this money, we'll just do that. And I think that I personally have a concern with vetting. And I think we need to try to see what we can do about getting some additional resources on here. I won't support this. I have much more to say about ARPA. I'll save it for the board meeting. But that's my thought about this. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions? Yes.
Get the list, the resolution, and I see the term vacant. It's saying that under the recomposed list, there still would be one vacant position. Is that what it is? See,
I'm not sure. Yeah, that is-
correctly. You see what I'm saying on the resolution?
I don't
at the
see it.
bottom of the
I'm
list?
sorry, I don't see it.
Unless the position that says Mike Swan would be effectively reducing this. Committee from 13 to 11.
So I'm reading this so that effectively we would be deleting Mike Swan in that position from the ARPA committee. And we would be deleting the vacant position from this list. So we would be deleting two.
Two. So you go down from 13 to 11.
Well, the one's vacant, so that basically, in terms of active members, we would be deleting Mike.
He's asked to be,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We still have a budget officer on. Meets with recommendation of the acting county administrator. Thank you.
Any other questions? Call the question on number 7. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
Post.
That carries. let's see, that was all for the listed items. I do have one item I'd like to bring before the committee. And that's to do with the sheriff's department and the $5,720. And I'd like to get a feeling from this committee as to that we should move forward.
know nothing
Are you
about
just-
the request.
I think we could do it either way.
Just to clarify, this is what we had kind of discussed before about matching their union employees with what we already did with CSEA.
And they've all requested it.
I mean, my sense is we need to.
Bargaining unit that we're doing this with is 5 of them, so we deal 5 of them,
Plus 4 people outside the unit.
or non-union. Okay, just want to be clear, units. And, we've received, man, we've received letters requesting this from all the 5 units.
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do this.
I agree. I don't have the exact numbers. I have an idea of what it is. I think we're looking at. Here. I don't have the numbers from August 1st to the end of the year. Yes,
What was the total cost for the CSEA employees for the year? A year? Is that easily attainable?
looks like about 1,382,000, but there are revenues associated with the CSA. Because a lot of them are social services, so there's revenues there. So when you add in the revenues, it comes down some, but I'm not sure. Well, for August 1st to December 31st this year, it was 576,000. So I think there's like 300,000 or 400,000 in revenue. So $1 million probably around there, 900 million. Okay, I was just looking for a consensus to move forward and bring it back before the committee. So very good. Yes.
I have 2 things. The estimate going back to August for sheriff's would be about $659,000 different. And the other piece is the position in the county attorney's office that we were questioning the increase. That position was out of unit and was not afforded the 5720 increase.
Thank you. So there's we can move that today. It's 6:59.
Yeah, the 2020, an estimate of the 2020 increase. If we did, I'm sorry, the 2022.
From August 1st to the end.
Yes.
I mean, we all knew that what we were doing when we did it, that the other unions would be here, that it'd be retroactive to the same point in time. We discussed in general what the round numbers were, significant. The only source of funding that I know came. So, I'll make the motion, and if you need to have a source of funding, it has to come from the fund balance, or do you save that for finance?
Yeah, that would go to finance.
That would be finance to decide the funding source, but I mean. We all knew it was coming, it's simply a question of when we did it, it would be retroactive. So I'll move it.
I'd be happy to. If we need a
Moved by
second.
Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Wild. This is for to appropriate the $5,720 to the sheriff's department the whole sheriff's department, from August 1st until 12/31/22 at a cost of $6,500 or $659,000. I'm looking at too many
I
dollars.
like the 6,000 better.
Yes. I got a little couple extra items for this one. To amend the collective bargaining agreements with the 5 unions to represent this change.
Can I amend my motion? I would, then I'll amend my motion to say subject to the satisfactory amendment to the existing bargaining units. Requiring not only our action, but their action. Amendment to the contract.
Of course, my second. Still stands.
Discussion on the motion.
No, just simply the resolutions for each 700. It'll be prorated because some
$2.75 per position. Okay, I'll call. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's the 5 unions, and are we including the non-union employees over there as well, or did they already get swept in? They didn't, right? Okay. So this includes them, the 5, and, okay, thank you.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pending item. Moving on number 1, I don't believe there is. Number 2 is still outstanding. I think number 3 we can take off, though. I think the
Mhm.
September 29th meeting established process. The county attorney, draft local law opting out of section 487(9) of the real property tax law at a future meeting.
I prepared the local law. I have some property, so my apologies to the committee. I misunderstood, and I saw that. Probably the shortest thing I've ever written, so.
Yes.
Just on that, I'm not sure. I'll have to wait to see what the amendment is, but I mean, I had a pretty lengthy discussion. And looking back, what took place in the removal of the conditions at the meeting, that the law did exactly what it was designed to do. I do have a concern that if the proposal, I hope the proposal is not the wholesale. removal of this requirement. We don't consider a qualified removal of this requirement.
My apologies. I should have specified specifically what section 487(9) is. That has to do with solar and wind power energy.
Oh, my apologies. My
Exemptions.
apologies. I thought I'm on a different issue. Okay, very good. Thank you.
That through the real property committee at the next committee meeting.
Mr. Chairman, just as for everyone else's information, Warren County EDC and the IDA are also struggling with similar kind of questions in terms of how to deal with solar tax credits. And I'm trying to coordinate all of those so we can kind of have a common stance or at least a common understanding of the pros and cons.
Section 5 is the positions that have been filled or asked to be filled in the committee meeting. Privilege of the floor and public.
I do have a question about the MEOs since the superintendent is here, and I'm sure his answer is yes, but does he need all of those and have they already been filled?
Currently Supervisor Bremer, I'm 11 trips short from plowing roads this year, so yes, I do need them.
Fair enough.
11.
Only 11. How many? You want to get your CEO? Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna drive for you, buddy. I'll be the wingman. You drive, I'll wing it.
Yes, Treasurer Swan. Yes.
You have to speak up because the air just went on.
Nobody's ever had problem hearing me. I want to address some concerns I have concerning, excuse me, Resolution 96 of 2021, which is the remote work from home policy. Oh, first of all, let me give you some facts. From January 1 to September 1st of this year, 141 employees have filed for work from home. That amounts to 16,000 hours of working from home. Some of those employees have never been back since March of 2020. I don't think that that's quite acceptable, but I want to give you a few examples, excuse me, of what I consider to be taking advantage of the program. One higher level employee who had a physical problem and could not come to work filed for work from home for 3 or plus weeks. I don't see how that's fair to the DPW equipment operator who has a physical problem and has to use sick leave. And if they don't have sick leave, go on workman's comp or disability at a fraction of their cost pay. I mean, we have, and I know this is a sensitive subject, but there's upper level employees that are taking months off at a time for childcare. And believe me, I know childcare is a problem. I raised 7 kids. I am firsthand been introduced to that and dealing with grandchildren in the childcare system. How is that fair to the road patrol officer who can't work from home and has to pay $300, $400, $500, $600 a week for childcare, or have their spouse give up a paycheck to sit home with the children? There's just some inequities in here. And we have the one that really kicked it off for me was there is a county employee who lives in Baltimore, Maryland that we're mailing a paycheck to. I'll be honest, if that's acceptable, then I probably won't see you guys again because I'm going to Myrtle Beach and I'm calling it in. Period. The work from home, well, I'm old school, okay? So I'm just going to say point blank, I don't think it should be done in government. The residents of this county, we're civil servants to them. And they have the expectation that the people that they're paying for are going to be here when they need them. And I have a problem because now I can't get a hold of people on the phone. And I spend a half a day or 3/4 of a day or 2 days with emails trying to work something out, which should have been a 15 or 10-minute phone call. That creates a problem for my staff and for me. And the person working from Baltimore is down there attending college. So how is that fair to the employee in my office who can't work from home and wants to get an accounting degree and is taking 1 or 2 courses every semester to try to get their degree here? These are the problems that I'm seeing in the system. Our independent auditor just came through and found that there were several departments. There's supposed to be paperwork for everybody who works from home is supposed to be filled out and kept in the department. There were several departments that couldn't find that paperwork for the people that were working from home. So it's not being administered correctly either. I just look at it. How is it fair to the DPW worker or the road patrol guys or the people that are working in the jail, the treasurer's office, real property, countryside, Meals on Wheels, all those people that can't work from home and they see other people that never come in?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that the Personnel Committee should review and take a look at, definitely. Yes, Supervisor Bremer.
I completely agree with that. We put that in place in 2021 is sort of trying to deal with the pandemic and people who were at home. And I think part of the problem is what Treasurer Swan said there at the end is the administration of the program is not being done correctly. it really is supposed to be relying on the individual employees, supervisors paying attention to these requests and authorizing them at a regular basis. It shouldn't have been something that just got put in place and then we never look at it again for 2 years. That's not what it was meant to do. And I agree with you. It's not meant to just allow someone to work from Maryland. So I think there's two things. We need to look at the policy and we also need to look at the administration of it. And I'm not old school. I think we've got to have some sort of policy in place because there are going to be appropriate times for work from home where we'll get good work from our employees. Going into the future, we've got to take this into consideration.
Supervisor.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Totally agree with Treasurer Swan's summary. Any good deed never goes unpunished, or whatever that saying is. And obviously, there's intentions, good intentions a year and a half ago with the pandemic. It was needed probably in some cases, but now we need to rein it back in, tighten it up. And in my opinion, work from home should be a rarity and an emergency situation, not a normal everyday way of doing business. And it's not fair to the taxpayers of Warren County who still have to go into work. And then they try to get a hold of somebody in the department. Oh, they're not around, they're working at home. I mean, that's almost an insult to them. And it's an insult to some of the county employees who don't even have that opportunity or option to work from home because of the position they may have within the county. So we definitely need to get on this. It should be on next month's agenda. We need accounting, and I'd like to know what departments are slacking off and not fulfilling even the basic requirement of paperwork required of tracking these employees. That to me is a serious issue, and that should be addressed probably by the county administrator because that's something that shouldn't go on.
Let's review the resolution and the policy and we'll go from there.
So will that be on next month's agenda? Is that what we're saying?
Can that be put on that pending item?
You think?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick one. I may be old in the tooth, but I'm not as old school as that. There's some roles that can be done working from home, and we have to not send a message to any new employees that may want to come here that that's never going to be an option, because the younger generation that's in the workforce today, that's a big part of their life and a big part of what they expect going forward. So we just need to keep an open mind about what the future is going to hold. Thank you.
So I'm here to speak for Janelle. She's listening to the meeting, and in our department, we're a little bit different. We're still recovering from COVID. We still have COVID calls to make every day. We are very short-staffed. We have our last nurse just resigned 2 weeks ago. So it's Janelle and myself as far as nurses go. We rely on those public health assistants that have been helping us through COVID. If they can't work from home, and they are working from all over, they have been from day one. And they're doing the job. They're not abusing the time by any stretch. I do their Nova time. So, I mean, if they can do 3 or 4 calls in a half an hour, and then they go to class and they come back and do 3 or 4 more calls, that's less, 3 or 4 calls less than we have to make. We can't do it all by ourselves. This one person who's in Baltimore that was spoken of, she came from day one when colleges went out, she came and volunteered her time for us. And then we hired her. She's been to college and back. She helps us. She doesn't need this job. She does not need this. She is doing this just to help us. So that as the cases increase every day, she'll look on it. She'll make phone calls. It's all on a ComCare system, so nobody duplicates the calls, and they get done. If she can't get on, she can't work, she doesn't work. But we have a couple people who work from remote, work from home. And I don't care where they're working from. We've had them from New York City. We've had them from Colorado. We've had them from Baltimore. And they've been here. They've been in the office. They've been trained. And they all know the job. And wherever they can do it and help us, that's great. Because we're down to 2 nurses, and that's Janelle and myself. We have not one applicant since the grade has been raised, and the 275, not one applicant for a nurse. not one for our home care, not one for public health. So this is vital for us. And all of our work from home agreements are up to date. You can come and check any day of the week. They are done. They are there. So I just want to say that if this is taken away from us, I don't know what's going to happen to our department. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Supervisor Wild's right. We have to keep an open mind. You know, there are exceptions to this policy, and we need to recognize that.
Earlier today at the NISAC NACO committee meeting, there was talk about best practices around counties. I will look into see what there might be in other counties on their work from home policies and get something back to the personnel.
Thank you. Yes, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you for the opportunity to be heard during privilege of the floor. I have two items that you've discussed today that I would like to make a comment on, not being a member of this committee. The first, just to keep it in succession of the discussion we're having right now about work from home. At our August Board of Supervisors meeting, I did request an update about our remote and work from home policy from our acting county administrator to report back to the full board. I also shared the concerns that were made to me about the policy and my experience with it over the last year, and how it's implemented throughout the entire county. I asked for a spreadsheet. When I was asked specifically what I was looking for, I asked for a spreadsheet of where, what departments are utilizing this and in what way, and what's the consistent application. So this isn't the first time we're hearing about concerns with this. In fact, when it was implemented, we talked about the need to have to revise this so that we can still take advantage of attracting employees here so that they are able to work from home with accountability and a set schedule, but not as a blanket approval for take all the time you want, we can't get a hold of you. This has been something that there's been a request to the full board for an update. And so not being a member of this committee, I can't weigh in on that, but I would ask again, if we're assured we're going to have those updates to the full board, it would be great to have them. I've also forwarded from Saratoga County, who did a presentation at NISAC, which both Amanda Allen and Tammy DiLorenzo and I heard, and it was an incredible presentation on the benefits when implemented correctly. I provided that information to our acting county administrator as well as a best practice, but particularly one that is right south of us, who spoke very highly about looking at the checks and balances. To our treasurer's point, there does need to be oversight. That being said, we're a little hypocritical here because we don't even allow extraordinary circumstances for supervisors or staff to Zoom in and participate in our Board of Supervisors meetings. And I think if we want to be a county that attracts people, to the supervisor from Queensberry's point, we also need to be very not only flexible, but accessible. And that we are not as a county Board of Supervisors. Secondly, you, Mr. Chairman, removed number 3 as a pending item, saying that given your last meeting, you now have a process to hire department heads. But it was not my impression, which I did attend that entire meeting as a non-member of this committee, that it was for all hiring of all department heads. In fact, I brought up a question about number 11 on those 12 points of hiring that did not make any sense to me, but it was not talked about by your committee. There was confusion on that. I also asked about, is there a way for us to have a checkbox for applicants so they know that when they apply, it is a public application? The supervisor from Bolton had supported that idea, provided our personnel office weighed in on it and we had that discussion, but that is not amended or included in your hiring practice. I would ask that you please keep this agenda item on for further discussion so that these 12 steps are only applicable to the hiring of the county administrator and not to every department head. How people are advertised, how we recruit, and the type of warning notice, in essence, that we provide to our applicants of public information, I think is a critical aspect, and it is not reflected in those 12 points. And I hope that the committee would ask that you keep that on the agenda to talk a little bit more broadly about department head hiring in general. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure that policy, I do believe the committee did adopt that policy at the time on September 29th. And I do believe the comments were also made that it's not perfect and that can be amended. I don't think it's, like I said at the time, I don't think it's set in stone. And, you know, it's an ongoing item. Not sure that we have to talk about it every month. Yes, if you want to, we put it back on. I don't care. We can get it number 4. In that policy, as I was looking for it, but I haven't found it yet. I was just reminded that it is for department heads and that it'll be, I believe, in front of the board and went to the county attorney for his review, and I believe it'll be it's gonna go to the board October 21st. So you'll be able to weigh in on it at that time. Yes.
For the hiring of the county administrator, there was interest that policy be outlined. The acting county administrator pulled together a template for that, presented it to the personnel committee, and the personnel committee adopted that for the process for the hiring of the county administrator. This could be expanded to be used for all department heads. It did not go through full county attorney review on things. It could be tweaked some more, so it came out of personnel, but I would recommend that to have further review before it gets it. And the idea was never to have it adopted by the full board. From my view the other day, it was a working policy so that everybody involved, the whole board of supervisors and department heads, knew what the process was for going through on the hiring of the county administrator. And it was a guidance document on it. I am concerned about creating it, being fully adopted by the board of supervisors and then basically etched in stone. Any deviation from that would require an amendment by the full board, and that could slow the policy. What we need is to have something that is a working policy, and however that can be put in place, that would be my recommendation, rather than something accepted by the full board.
Okay, so how does the committee feel about it would be a policy of the personnel committee, and rather than have the full board certifying it, we leave it as a policy of the personnel committee that can be tweaked and changed. About that. Yes, Supervisor Connell.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone that is dissatisfied, any supervisor, dissatisfied with the policy or any point of the policy, I mean, please express that issue to our human resource director, our county attorney, our county administrator, and that policy can be amended very quickly. If they see the point and they agree with the point, and because there may be other supervisors that don't agree with the point. But what I would say is that as far as this supervisor is concerned, relative to this committee, stated it very clearly. I'm always open to suggestions and improvements, and especially those types of suggestions and improvements that come through our personnel office to deal with personnel matters, come to our attorney's office to deal with maybe legal matters related to those personnel matters, and our county administrator that has to oversee the whole thing. So, I mean, I think that if there's a weakness in the policy, by all means, express that issue to our human resource director and our administrator and our county attorney, and I'm sure it is going to come in front of us. Now, whether they agree or disagree with it, the point is another matter. But I think that, to me anyway, I think that that's the correct channel for inputting on a countywide policy. And I'll be happy to take an honest and fresh look at anything at any time.
I mean, I recall us taking the vote on the 12 steps, as we were calling them last time, and I was fine with that. I didn't realize it was gonna go to the full board as a to be established policy. So I'm wondering if your suggestion is a good one to try to pass something today that pulls it back out and says, this is just our policy, and we would be able to amend it as a committee then later if we need to do something. I mean, I know there was a policy in place the year that we hired the county attorney because Jackie helped us with it. And Ryan had it ready to go. It's not like this is a brand new thing that we never had a policy in place before. We did.
Unless there's a motion to withdraw it, it will go to the full board.
I'll make a motion to withdraw it from the board packet.
I'll second the motion for discussion purposes.
Made by Supervisor Bramer and seconded by Supervisor Conover to withdraw the 12-step proposed hiring process by the county administrator. Discussion.
Why would, to go to Supervisor Bramer's, I think the point of her motion is, why would that go to the full board? That it's some type of law or, I mean, this is, I think, what we wanted to ensure is that we provided our department heads guidance relative to matters dealing with hiring and firing, so that we standardize and there's clarity and that they understand that this is how it's to be conducted. It seems to me that's more of an administrative act than it is a legislative act. It's not to say that I don't think it's important. I think it's very important. Again, I would extend to my colleague from Queensbury that any language that's unclear, any language that's needs to be modified, by all means, send that through the system, and I'm happy to take a fresh look at it here at any time. And I think that and I'll go one step further, that if emails went out with no response back, then I would ask, if that's the case, then I would ask the acting county administrator to re-energize those emails to make sure that they're addressed and brought before the committee. So if they have fallen into the shallow, if they have not been moved forward, they need to be moved forward, even if it's in the negative. Even if it's in the negative by the county human resource director, even if it's in the negative by the county attorney, and even if it's the one with respect you're negative, then you need to bring it forward and explain yourself. And I'm happy with that. So, and if that has happened, then I think that's unfortunate. That's exceedingly unfortunate.
I just want to clarify for the committees. I'm not asking that what we did last time be rescinded. I'm just suggesting that we keep it here as a standing guidance of our committee, and that we do make sure that these last other things get at least looked at. So I would like you, Chairman, to keep it on as a pending item.
Okay.
Hopefully then we can take it off after this next time.
I would ask the county attorney, can the personnel committee itself have a policy?
Yes, I'd be careful with the word policy, their guidelines, their best practices, the process that the committee has decided. To me, the word policy is something that's more formal and is approved by the Board of Supervisors, and therefore would be countywide. Well, maybe not even countywide, but certainly a policy is something that's approved by the board and does carry very specific weight. This is more of a process, guidance, best practice.
Any other discussion on this motion? Okay,
We're gonna leave it on the table, or we're gonna leave it on the agenda for next.
all right, we'll put it back on as a pending item and.
Wait a minute, we need to vote on the
We have a motion and a second to withdraw it so that it doesn't go before the board on August 21st. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Now we're still on privilege of the floor. Yes,
I'd like to respectfully ask for privilege of the floor.
yes.
Thank you. I was briefly watching some of the comments from Treasurer Swan regarding the work from home programs in the county. I can personally tell you that there is nobody in the Department of Social Services, if you're implying someone from there, not saying you are, but the work from home program at the Department of Social Services has been very successful. It's allowed us to get a lot more work done. It's also allowed us to have people who are very ill continue to work, who cannot come into work. We get the work done. The caseworker program is probably one of the best ones of all. All the work they do is completely accountable for because it's all on the computer. We have supervision monitoring that. They are working. I personally witnessed yesterday a caseworker who was on break call her supervision who was working at home, immediately picked up the phone. They had a long conversation during their break. One of those people was working at home. That was her supervisor. So please do not think that there are people at the Department of Social Services who are taking advantage of this. It's actually an advantage to not only the employees, but to the department and to the county. My suggestion is if there are people in this county who are upper level employees making a lot of money, who are home using this program for childcare, they should be called out. Their supervision is the person who should be monitoring that. Or anybody else, I'm just saying. Well, you did claim some things
Wait a
that
minute.
were,
Address your comments up here. We're not having a debate.
yeah. My thought is that if there is a situation where someone is taking advantage of it, their supervision is the person that's responsible for allowing that. It's not the program. It's not the work from home. It's the person who's monitoring that employee. So that's what should be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I know we're running late, but I just would like to say that, you know, if someone takes a home test and has COVID, they can't report to work. You don't want them to report to work. But they may be working from home. They may not have severe symptoms, but they're prepared to continue to do their work, not only for themselves and their patient, but for their colleagues. My point here is that we need to have a discussion of this in real time, in the real world, and what's really happening out there. Because you have employees that could be away from the workplace for as much as 10 days, right? Right? And so, and we have different variants of COVID now. It's a different world that we're in. And how we handle this as an employer, I think, is important in terms of our employees and in terms of the services and products that they provide. And so I just want to try to put this in context.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This work from home, it's been a tough subject, but I do a lot of work for some larger businesses where this is taking place. And even I can bring it up with my daughter. She works from home. And I believe she goes in, once a week to the office just to catch up. But, I've asked her and I've asked other ones that have worked from home. And, a lot of times there's a lot less distraction in her office mingling. They actually get more work done, and especially in a case where if you're coming to work on a computer for caseload, say, and that's all you do is do on the computer. So, I agree with Director Hanchett of what he's doing. And then if you're monitoring them and you have to work. I think it can be advantage because I agree with my counterpart from Queensbury that the world is changing, but it's monitoring. Yes, we do have some positions, unfortunately, especially in the DPW, our sheriff's department, where we don't have that option. But that's the option that we take when we, accept the job and go. We know that, and that, so I'm glad we're working forward on that. But my main concern is I wanted to go back to the ARPA. Okay. You're looking to, fulfill, and you didn't want to getting somewhere up to speed. And the other week, when I was there, Dennis Dickinson asked if I'd be interested in getting on it, since I've gone to a lot of the meetings and I have followed it really since the beginning. We established in January. So if you needed someone to add on, I am volunteering myself to go on the committee. I did not do the pick me up.
83 applications,
The
at least
I
20
didn't
hours.
review
of work on it.
But I am very familiar in why we set up the process to do the scoring. So I understand the scoring very well. So if not being put on the committee, maybe you can ask for an alternate. And usually I am there at the meetings anyways, if I'm able to jump in, if you don't have quorum to keep things moving on. All right. The other thing I was brought up, and I'm having a little harder hearing. We talked about the unions and the amount of money that was being spent with the raises that we came, and that was roughly was it 1.5 mil? Okay. And then we had the outer unit.
Yep.
Okay, and how much more was the outer unit?
600.
Well, let's see. $320,755.
All right, and now all the sheriff's department. The five, what is it, 5 unions over there? Or
Yep, that's, let's see, 659,000.
that was just from this year, from now until the end of the year.
Correct.
So we got to times that by another 2, right?
Oh, you have to ask one at a time. I can't. The yearly cost for that will be about 1.4.
Okay, 1.4. That's all I need. I really think this was a good thing to do. It's a lot of money. And this is kind of why I brought up the thing for the attorney's office at the $56,000 a year on top of the raises they already got. I mean, it all adds up. And like I said, we're in the budget season. But I really appreciate that. But for consideration, but I have to wait for privilege on the floor on the ARPA. I'm throwing that option out there to be able to help out if it's needed, if the committee or this committee chooses to let me sneak in. Thank you.
Thank you. On the note about, someone has COVID, they need to stay home for 10 days. We want them to. And I think that applies to supervisors as well. And if we're going to look at the work from home policy again, I'd like us to look at the extraordinary circumstances, local law for county officials. If you don't mind, I'd like us to put that on the agenda, as a pending item.
Sure, but I think that's a legislative agenda. That's not necessarily. Unless we incorporate it into whatever we come up with, whatever changes we make.
I also want everyone to keep in mind that the whole idea here was not only to protect the employees and their co-workers, but we also have to protect the public. So when someone you're working with has COVID and you're sitting at home and you find out you take the test, you have a certain protocol you have to follow, right? If you test positive, you're not going to work. We don't want them to come to work, not only for their own sake, but for the other people in the organization and also for the public at large. So my point is that this discussion is a much more involved discussion and affects different departments in different ways. And put that out there. That This is this will take some work.
I'm just concerned about the local law thing. If you're gonna send it back to legislative and rules, then maybe I should make a motion that we go to the full board, because that committee has already looked at it and refused to pass anything. Just to have a resolution to the full board, whether or not we want to look at it.
Our rules very clear. If Secretary wishes to bring a resolution forward, she can ask for a waiver of the rules and we can bring it forward. If you can mass the votes, then you succeed. That's the way we operate.
This committee is not interested in taking that up. Okay, I'll go to the full board. We'll try again.
I think it'll be part of the discussion anyways, as the resolution is reviewed and talked about, I would think. Okay, last one, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I just, very briefly, I don't understand how this committee can sit here and say it's important to our employees to have a policy that's effective with flexible and work from home and remote policies, and that you want to keep our community and our county healthy and safe, but you won't consider passing a resolution so that the full board can debate an extraordinary circumstance so that government can continue to function in the event that quorums are difficult to receive. We have many people still sick from home, not able to attend. So you can sit here and tell everyone that you care and you want to make it better and look at these policies, but you won't pass a resolution forward so the full board can actually debate it unless you can waive the rules, get it off the floor, and that's just a trick and a workaround. So why not commit to it and get it to the full board? I agree with Supervisor Bramer. It's time that we lead and we show by action. We're not doing it. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. By Supervisor Frazier.